Howdy, friends. Welcome back to another show. Going live again because I was just on Doug's show. I was over at the Pinecreek, down by the creek, talking with old Dougster. And it went about as well as expected. So I'm going to spool that up here and we're going to chat about it and see what happens. I will tell you right now, this is not good. I don't think that I would love to be able to say like I owned him, scolded him, took him to church, took him to school. I didn't. He didn't do the same for me either. It didn't really go anywhere. And in the end, he just booted me, which was the weirdest thing. We were talking, I was in the middle of a sentence and he just kicked me out. It's fun. So I'm going to play this because Doug brings up some criticisms that he has about me and my criticisms of him. And I want to play these here. Now, obviously, I'm playing them here for the audience that's live and for anybody that watches later on. If you guys are fans of mine, then you know my style and you know how much I talk and you know how much I ramble. Yep. But I want to play this because I'm wondering if maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to these criticisms. So Doug really wanted to get into it. And it was interesting because I don't think he wanted to be friendly. And given I don't think he saw the last one, given the live stream I did this morning, where I drop a lot of F-bombs. I'm not interested in being friendly either, especially given how hateful and stupid Doug's rhetoric has been. I don't like those glasses either. I don't know why. Normally not this superficial. I don't like those glasses on Doug. I wear glasses myself, obviously. I'm wearing these big clunkers. What's wrong? They're too small. They're too low. They're below the brow line. There's something not quite right with that fit. Anyway, let's get into this. So let's say hi to people since this is a live stream. Deaton says, I heard there was some Pinecreek smack talk and I came running. Yes, there is. This is all smack talk. Elden Ring DLC and Jefferson covers Pinecreek sounds like an evening. At least you've got Elden Ring. I don't even have that. It's just me covering Pinecreek. So one of us is much lonelier than the other. Let's see. Does Pinecreek talk about atheism? Good to see you, pastors. Sometimes he does. Clout is here. Pinecreek is unreceptive to criticism. Shocking. He's very unreceptive to criticism here. I'm unreceptive to be all cards on the table. I'm unreceptive to his criticism here as well. Doug crying again today. Kind of. Yeah, he kind of is. Like a wee little babe. Yeah, indeed. Let's see. Spicy Jefferson today. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be me kind of ranting more. Let's see. Been wearing the same glasses for 17 years because I like them so much. Hey, you know what? If you find something that you love, don't give it up. Do you wear the same glasses as Helsing? That's Helsing in your in your avatar, right? Jeff C says, Doug booted you? That's not very Canadian of him. We usually body check people. Oh, yeah. He said he couldn't skate and didn't play hockey. Carry on. Really? He said that's got to be the Mennonite. Yeah. That's got to be the Mennonite influence. Okay. So here we go. Let's get into this. I pushed this forward slightly. So this is going to get into where I'm coming in. There's a little bit of sound issues and stuff like that, but let's find out what happens. Let's go.
It wasn't allowing it. It was saying that you're.
Also, I'm going to apologize right now. My audio is really quiet because his call-in link was Discord. And when I jumped onto Discord, his invite list had a variety of different security setups that wouldn't allow me in at first. And when I got past those and gave permissions to access, like, speakers, camera, that kind of stuff, I think it was only accessing the webcam camera, not this beauty right here. So I might be kind of quiet during this one. So we'll see. I don't know if it improves.
My mic was not allowed on your.
Okay, well, I can hear you now, and I think everybody else can hear you, right? But yeah, did you hear what I said? Like when you critique my videos, I find that when I try to listen to you,
Hey,
you
that's
just
me.
talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Talk and talk.
And by the end of it, I don't even know what you're responding to.
He's not the first person to say this. Cerberus X actually said this in response to a video that I did on a particular topic. He's like, I don't even know what kind of, I don't even know what you're criticizing anymore. I don't know what to do about this. I talk a lot, and I talk at some length about lots of stuff. I will talk in circles. I do repeat myself. I admit that these are problems. I don't know that I do these often enough in every stream that it's that big of a problem. And for Doug to be making it like, well, you know, if I watch his stuff on me, I just find that Jefferson's just talking at stuff. Like, well, of course I'm going to talk at stuff. It's my YouTube channel where I talk about stuff. So this seems a bit weird. But he's basically saying the way that I talk, the way that I discuss these issues derails his attention span. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's why I have diminishing views. Maybe other people have realized, hey, Jefferson, woke cuck, rooster hat, you can't count on him to make any sense. He just keeps talking and talking and talking. But let's see what he does. Let's see what he says.
Do you agree?
We both talk and talk and talk.
Do you agree that you tend to talk a lot?
I mean,
Mhm.
I talk on a YouTube channel, so yeah, I would agree that I talk a lot. That's talking is kind of the point of my YouTube channel and yours too.
Yeah, but I would love to compare, like, I don't know if AI can do this, but just the words
It can.
per minute, words per hour of you versus me.
Would that be relevant to anything? So let's create a transcript of one of my live streams and a transcript of one of Doug's live streams. Feed them to ChatGPT and then have it deliver a verdict of which one has more verbosity. Why?
Like a lot,
Somebody said, please not this guy.
a lot of times
I had to laugh at that because there was actually a comment that came through when he got me in here. One of his fans texted in live comments, please not this guy. And that still tickles me even now. It's great.
I have guests on and I find they talk more than I do.
When you allow them to. He frequently interrupts me. Look, so put a pin in that and just keep an eye on this. Going forward, there'll be multiple times where he shames me for trying to talk too much. It's a new thing for Doug.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, well, I've done interviews with, people like, Dr. Josh Bowen or Aaron Ra. They talk more during those interviews than I do.
But anyhow, we got to tie this in somehow to theism. What's your take on theism? Do you just basically leave people to their own beliefs and that's it, or
more or less until the theism starts to bleed into like informing ideas about policy or something like that? Like, that's one thing to say that you believe in a God, but it's another thing to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that thing is actually picking up the mic from my webcam and not this bad boy. That's sad. And I couldn't change that. I couldn't change those settings on Discord.
We need to say, ban certain forms of birth control because my God said so. That's when I would step up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I've shifted more to politics, because to me that
Doug pretending he doesn't have 10,000 hours uploaded to him nonstop talking. Exactly. Really honing in on the substance of the issues, isn't he? Yeah. The biggest problem is that it's not that I talk a lot, it's that I talk at all. Let's just be honest.
That's more political than theistic. Is there anything you want to disagree with me about publicly here?
Oh, well, no, were you going to say something? Because I had mentioned something about something. You said you were going to say something.
Oh, that was about subscribers texting and the YouTube channel. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't think that's what it was. Before this, before I jumped in live, when he was talking to his audience, he said something. He mentioned my name and said, "Hold on, Jefferson, I got something to say to you," or something like that. He said something like that. And so when I jumped on, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what was it?" But then he didn't really follow up with it. So,
Well, was that what you were going to mention?
Yeah. Jefferson's volume is very low. Yeah, I agree. It is low. Maybe I can bump you up. But so far, Jefferson hasn't said anything. Oh, yeah. Now I got you really loud. I got a special
nice OBS
extension
really
called
boost that.
Volume Booster.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the settings are in Discord, but in your room, I'm not really.
Yeah, that echo and stuff that's going on. He boosted the volume for his broadcast. That is definitely coming from the webcam because his Discord channel didn't pick up this as a source. So
I'd love to change anything. Ooh, I don't know. I don't even know if Discord rooms, have adjustments for this kind of stuff. So
Pinecreek is a smeary, sleazy atheist with no brain mass, unlike Darth, who is smart and fun. Tangela, I don't know if that's really you or if that's actually Peter, but either way, well done.
did you just get a Discord set up?
Yeah, just a few days ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. But Jefferson, it's like I get the sense you talk a lot of smack about me on your channel. Now that we're face to face,
A lot of smack. Lots and lots of smack. Yes.
I'm giving an opportunity. Like, it doesn't have to be about theism.
Well, I mean, just as an open thing, I mean, I think your politics are crap. I think a lot of your stuff seems to be informed by bad, like right-wing media, at least as far as I can tell, which might be fueling your growth. YouTube loves that shit. Like stuff like covering the immigrant.
Yeah, you're right, AR, because I've never used Discord to broadcast anything with this computer. And so the fact that I was accessing it for the first time probably threw it off. And I have had problems with Discord in the past, not recognizing audio inputs. So yeah, you're right. More of that was probably on my side of things, because once I was actually in this room here, there wasn't the ability to actually change that. So, and that's probably more on my settings than his.
Immigration crisis, which is a crisis. I think there's a couple of refugee crises tacked into that.
Okay, so far, okay, your opening statement seems like very general. I just think your politics.
I mean, he wanted to know where we disagreed. Damn near everything. It's interesting to me, like, Doug is one of these guys who's like addicted to disagreement because he thinks he can find common ground with everybody, or at least he sort of presents himself that way. And in this particular case, like, hey, what do you have a problem with? Like, goddamn everything. And he's like, oh, well, that's kind of general. You didn't narrow it down. Like, if he had asked me, like, hey, what do you where do we disagree on birth control issues? Where do we disagree on immigration issues? Where do we disagree on national security issues? I'd be like, oh, okay, based on some of the stuff that you've said, this, and this, or maybe I don't know where he's at. But here he is. Technicality, too many Tangelos in the chat. Maya, you are a mod. You go nuts and do what you need to do. Well, I have about 20 Gmail accounts. Check yourself, D'Angelo. If this is really you, check yourself. Is it Christ-like to have that many IDs on social? Just wondering. I mean, they're emails, but still.
politics is crap, and I could say the same about yours, but I won't. But specifically,
I'm not entirely sure that you understand my politics, though.
What the fuck? Forget Doug and let's get back to some good old fashioned God hating. Jesus didn't die on no cross, so you can make videos about Pine Creek. Excellently done. Excellently done, Lucky.
Well, let's find out. I mean, let's talk about something very specific. Immigration is on everybody's mind, it seems like. Do you think
God is 3 persons, 1 essence, so no problem really? And you are 1 person, 20 emails, 1 essence, so no problems really? Right? Is that what it is?
people from other countries have a right to live in the United States?
Right? No.
Okay. Do you think that the United States should be very selective in who they allow in?
No.
No. Okay, so there we have a disagreement.
Right. I don't, I mean, because to allow in for what? I probably should have said this. Allow in for what? Full citizenship or just to visit? I don't think that there's, and even when it comes to citizenship, I'm not that strict. I think that a lot of citizenship, the strict citizenship rules are a failure of policy. I've said this multiple times. I still hold to this. Let's see where this goes.
Right. I think that generally, do you know who Yanis Varoufakis is?
That sounds familiar, but I'll say no.
He's a Greek economist, and he was involved in kind of negotiations for the Greek government when it came to like the euro crisis that they had several years ago. And there's a clip of him circulating on TikTok and a variety of other places, but he basically talks about immigration policies, especially like the kinds where you block everybody from coming in, and you have this kind of stuff. It is basically a policy failure, and I agree with him. He gives an example of somebody like Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde.
See, this is an example of you talking too much. I'm
This to me, I mean, this makes me want to kick a puppy right here. This is the stupidest fucking thing I've heard from Pine Creek in a long time. The response that I was giving while quiet, I could see him losing track. He was not tracking what I was talking about, and I wasn't talking for that long. And then he's also, this is an example of what I mean. You're taking too long to make your point. How? I'm giving an example of something somebody said, and he cuts me off and says, "Oh, this is why here's why nobody can track what you're talking about." I didn't realize that YouTube is only set up for the ADD crowd. If you can't keep it in under 10 seconds, he does this actually. He actually tries to mandate this, and I start keeping my responses very, very succinct, and then he extremely short, to the point where there's dead spaces in between him asking a question and me after I respond, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm not talking too much now, right?
I'm just being very real with you. Like, if we can go like I talk for 10 seconds, you talk for 10 seconds, something like that. Can you do that or no?
I talk for 10 seconds, you talk for 10 seconds. Sure. But I was trying to give a reference to what I was actually talking about, which was the Yanis Varoufakis clip that I wanted to mention. Yeah, Brie. Again. Sorry.
Fuck. Yeah, I guess I can. I was trying to make a point.
Okay, what can you make your point in 1 or 2 sentences?
This pissed me off.
Yeah, so this guy was saying,
I think there was an internet.
And now I
glitch
can't
here.
hear you. Or now, are you frozen?
His Discord, on my side of things, when I was in his Discord, it started like spooling up. Everybody started going into a reset. I didn't lose internet access, but things started resetting.
So frustrating.
Not because of me. This is Discord, baby.
Jefferson, try to leave and come back. Oh.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah, try to leave and come back.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up really badly.
Yeah, my connection's fine. I don't know what's going on. Nothing's lapsed here. Although you did go missing for a second, so
Yeah, he did. The other ones dropped out. Mine stayed. The other ones dropped out and then came back on. So there was like this weird Discord dropout. Michael says, I have ADHD big time and I can listen to Jefferson. So I think the problem is more Doug is trying to avoid having to face a sound argument. Well, and he keeps wanting to ask me these loaded ass questions like, well, I'm going to ask if you've got two different people waiting to come into and you're emperor of the universe, which one would you allow? Like, for fuck's sake, I don't care.
Okay. Do you think the United States should be more selective in who they allow in? I say yes, you say no, correct?
yeah, as far
Yeah, I don't. The idea of being super selective about immigration or even temporary immigration, I think, is a policy failure. I think the idea of allowing more fluid transfer of populations and of citizens across borders is better for individuals. It's not always the greatest, from what he says, for nation states and for governments. But if they've got it set up and they've got the administration set up to kind of facilitate that kind of move, it can be very good for those countries. It can allow a lot of flexibility and possibly even improve the economy.
as like allowing in for what? Permanent residence or tourism or what?
Yeah, let's say for I'm talking mainly about permanent residence and citizenship.
What? Titan says, did you hear the latest? Doug recorded people on another creator's server without their knowledge or permission and then posted it on YT, YouTube, admitted he was trying to humiliate them because they're trans. When did he do? Was this that one that he did? That short that he did? Or that video that he did about, like, it's like recordings of people talking about trans terms? Or is this something else? Holy shit. That's scummy as fuck. Disingenuous dickhead Doug pulling dickhead moves? Shocking. Bree says, people have been immigrating around the world for about 200,000 years. Exactly. And the point that I was trying to bring up to Doug was an observation from Yanis Varoufakis, who was talking about these kinds of strict immigration rules are a failure of policy. Because if you have a robust economy with a robust infrastructure system, you can allow for an influx, an inflow, and outflow of different people into your country without having to worry about this. If you're super spasmodic about, like, oh my God, 20 people just showed up last month. We don't have the hospitals for it. Your infrastructure is shit. Which is actually what Doug gets into later on. Like, hey, do our schools have the capacity to handle this? Maybe they don't. Our hospitals, they have the capacity to handle that? Maybe they don't. If they don't, you need to ask yourself, why don't they? Why don't they have that capacity? If you wanted to entertain the notion of, like, let's say that there's a natural disaster that occurs south of our border or in Europe, like some kind of Dean Devlin, Roland Emmerich kind of blockbuster style movie thing where part of Europe freezes over or most of Africa gets touched off in a fucking dust storm or something like that. And all those refugees need to move into Europe and into the United States. How do we deal with that? Well, if we're America, we do the adult thing. We pull up our pants and we get to work on solving that infrastructure issue. What we don't do is put product in our cockatoo hair and pretend that we can't do anything because it's full. I mean, building's full, right? Fucking stupid.
No, because I mean, the selection process right now is extremely strict. I don't think it needs to be more strict. It already is quite.
It's very strict. If you want to become a citizen in the United States, if you want to become and in the United States, I think it's actually relatively easy compared to others. It is very strict to change your citizenship.
Hard to become a full citizen of the U.S.
Okay, when I say selection process, I mean just allowing people to cross the border.
I don't.
Who gives a fuck? Like this is the thing. My God. Somebody crossed. Oh my God. They're here and they're going to take a toothbrush from a Target in in San Angelo, Texas. Who gives a fancy shit? The fuck does that matter? Let that Target sort that shit out. Like, okay, somebody crossed over and well, they're not documented. No, they ain't legal. Most Americans do not understand that asylum seekers are here legally. Let's just put that right there. Just chalk that one right up there. This includes Doug, right? Doug's audience does not acknowledge that asylum seekers are here in the United States fucking legally. He does not acknowledge that, and he won't emphasize that in his bullshit crap. In any of his videos, if he was being honest, he would say this, but he doesn't. So, if these people are here seeking asylum, they requested it. Doug actually said at the end, because he was still live. This video that I'm featuring here, he was still live when I went live. When I went live and I tuned into it, he was telling somebody who was on his show, another caller, mozzarella somebody, he wants to get rid of asylum. He was stating that flat out. We just need to get rid of asylum. Okay. That's just going to require a complete rewrite of domestic law and international law in terms of how the U.S. processes that. Good luck.
I don't see that there's an issue with people crossing the border, right?
Okay. You don't see an issue.
See that as a problem.
You don't see a problem with just anybody crossing the border?
Do you see a problem with anybody crossing the border into Mexico?
I wanted to bring this up because it seems like this is one of the things where these guys like get kind of fucked up about this. Like, do they have a problem with just anybody from the United States going there? And most of these immigrants, by the way, a lot of these refugees are crossing through Mexico to get here. And U.S. immigration policies are forcing those countries to hold them there, sometimes against international law. But, because it's a touchy situation and, the U.S. is the U.S., they just do it.
Well, from the Mexican perspective, I do.
Do they raise this issue?
No, because probably they don't.
Ken says, "Hey Jefferson, when I cast your show to my TV, you look about 24. Has your Hollywood elite backers paid for some plastic surgery?" No, that's probably just like 720p resolution. I'm gifted in the fact that most of my family all look kind of childish, even when we're old, which is not a great thing because at the tender age that I'm at in my mid 40s, I get guys like Chucklefuck over here thinking that I'm basically talking at him like a kid. So, yeah, it pluses and minuses, my man. But yeah, no, generally I look kind of smooth on camera. I assure you, up close and in real life, I am not. Scottish ancestry. I'm white and ruddy and craggy as fuck.
They don't care as much because it doesn't happen as much. Well,
it does. So
not for permanent residency.
If you're an American, you can cross over into the United States with barely any ID.
Right. I agree.
You can go there.
And Doug doesn't care. Nicholas says, getting rid of asylum is just wishing for a repeat of pre-World War II practices like the USA sending boatloads of asylum seekers back to Germany. Exactly. Exactly. Maya says, it's international law. What is wrong with this man? He doesn't recognize international law, nor does he care.
You can get drunk and you might not be able to get back in the United States as easily.
Right. Why do you think that is?
Because I think
Jeff is pank. What is pank? Maybe I don't want to know what that term means.
There's a massive double standard to play.
It's because people want to live in the United States more so than live in Mexico. Agreed?
A lot of the people coming here, they don't want to live in Mexico either because they lived in Venezuela. They're trying to come here because the Venezuelan government is actively taking them out. I think this is telling, and I probably should have like called him on this before, because when Doug talks about this, he acts like the number of people that are coming into the United States, like they're all from Mexico. No, they're crossing at Mexico. It fascinates me that these ding dongs can like hold it in their head, like, well, you know, some of those people that are crossing illegally into the United States, some of them are from like West African countries, or they might be, you know, Al Qaeda or ISIS or something like that. Like, ooh, cool. Okay, so the refugees, they're not actually from Mexico. They're from Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, blah 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 blah. And these guys are just like, same as. It's all Mexico. Anything south of, you just like from from the Rio Grande down to Tierra del Fuego, you just draw a line, color it over, and say Mexico. And I guess that's it.
No, I don't think that that's true.
Do you think the United States is a better country than Mexico?
No, it isn't. It's not. I don't think that one country is better than another, unless you've got a country that's established on, say, like, let's say like the Confederate States of the US, you know, like the South was trying to do, where it was essentially based on the idea that there's a white man's burden and we have to take control of the Negro kind of thing. Black people are, you know, inferior. That was part of the Confederate, you know, Constitution. That kind of country, definitely inferior. Definitely inferior. For the most part, a lot of other countries, you know, a lot of them don't have that in them, and most of them are not inferior or superior. Just apples to apples kind of comparison. Maya says you have to talk to him like he's a kid. He doesn't understand complex ideas. Yeah, I've got to wrap up my points in 10 seconds. Otherwise, I'm talking too long.
No,
Interesting. Why do you think so many immigrants go through Mexico to come to the United States and not just stay in Mexico?
Because they're on the continent, my man. They're on the continent and they're crossing by foot through Mexico.
Or do you think that is the case?
the current groups that are coming through are refugees in crisis, right?
Yeah.
You got 800,000 Venezuelans. You had before that you had
Right.
Salvadorians, you had Hondurans, Nicaraguans.
I like how he's already getting bored with this. Like he doesn't want to, you know, I don't want to deal with these fucking details. Like they're fucking refugees, right? There's two different issues going on. How does the United States handle immigration, and how does the United States deal with massive refugee crises happening in the southern countries, the countries south of our border, when they're coming to the United States to seek refuge and asylum and looking to, you know, either stay here or move on? How does the U.S. deal with that? And Captain Cockatoo here is just like, well, they're all coming from Mexico and they just want to live here so they can make that big money. Everybody's here trying to get wealthy at my expense. White guy living in Tucson, Arizona, is going to miss out because, you know, some migrants crossed over and started a parts company or something. You know, they started repairing cars or some shit. Or they started picking berries, or they got a job at a manufacturing plant, or they enrolled in school. Well, that's a spot in school my kid could have gone to. My kid could have gone to Technical College of Tucson, Arizona. Now he can't. These invaders.
And so it's not.
Are they staying in Mexico or are they coming into the United States?
Staying in they're not from Mexico. They're refugees from other countries who are on their way here seeking asylum, who are waylaid in Mexico because of our policies, Doug. Our policies. Mexico would rather not have them either. I'm pretty sure that Doug would acknowledge, like, if you asked Doug, which is a better country, Mexico or America? Doug would say, America. Straight up. Layup. Easy answer. Okay, cool. If America's a better country, and Mexico, it follows, is not a good country, why would these immigrants from Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras, wherever, want to settle in Mexico when Mexico can't take them in, but Mexico will allow them to pass through, to claim asylum, make an asylum claim in the United States, which is what is happening. And Doug just keeps saying, Mexico, Mexico, Mexico. Like, Can the United States afford to have Mexico move into itself? My answer? Probably. Probably could. Does the entire population of Mexico want to move into the United States? No. No, they don't. So, the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck is he talking about?
No, because Mexico can't absorb them all. Some of them do stay in Mexico.
Mexico can't absorb them all. How do you know that?
Because Mexico keeps them in border cities waiting for them to pass into the United States and doesn't allow them to travel after that. Or would allow them to travel as long as they leave. This seems to be the thing that's happening in a lot of border towns and with Mexico policy, right? They're allowed to pass through Mexico because they're on their way to asking for asylum here. Some of them ask for asylum in Mexico, but Mexico has different restrictions, different protocols. But they're not Mexican. It's not like the population of Mexico is burping out a bunch of its population at the United States looking to overflow everything west of the Mason-Dixon line. That's not how this works. You have you have a refugee crises happening in multiple countries south of the border that have caused these issues. And somebody like Doug is like, well, wait, hang on. I only want somebody who's educated to come here. I only want the best to come here. You're not talking about immigration, cockatoo face. You're talking about fucking asylum seekers, people who are fleeing a government that is actively trying to fucking kill them. That is a completely different order of magnitude and categorically different than just like, hey, there's a $5 million guy here and a $0 guy here. No, the $5 million guy and the $0 guy from Venezuela have one thing in common. The Venezuelan government would like them dead, and they want in here so that they can be safe. This is fucking just the dumbest fucking shit that comes from Republicans and conservatives nonstop all day long. Like, well, I'm just talking about like, what are the logistics? How does this all work? I'm just trying to be objective. No, you're fucking not. You've basically equated all these people with being Mexicans. They're not. You've equated them with being immigrant seekers. They're fucking not. They're seeking asylum because their government in their country, not Mexico, is trying to fucking kill them. Their evidence, it fucking killed their relatives. And you're acting like this is a thing that, you know, like, oh, well, no, we don't need to take them in. Just get rid of that. Well, I don't. No. We don't want to have to deal with that shit. Facts don't care about your feelings, and you know what? My feelings don't care about facts. I do not give a shit if you're Doug. I do not give a shit if people are being killed by their government and they want to go to another government so that they can be protected. Full up, no room. This seems to be the point.
That's according to their statistics. In fact, it's interesting. There was a documentary done about the effects of immigration and refugee flows in Monterey.
So if someone says, according to United States statistics, we can't absorb them all, then you would agree that they shouldn't come in then?
Nicholas says, so when does Doug say first country rule for asylum seekers, a rule that even my spouse thinks is a thing but does not exist? For context, my spouse works at a transitionary shelter for immigrants. Turkener gerbs. Jack says the U.S. could just annex Mexico, I guess. That would let Doug keep thinking he's in the better part of America and the immigrants still get to America. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, if we couldn't, yeah, I guess. But has that been decided anywhere that we can't absorb refugees?
Do you think there's a limit to what the United States can absorb?
Sure, there's a limit, but
if you were to guess,
the natural territory.
if you were to guess, what do you think that limit?
I always love it when he does it. Like, what's the limit? What do you think it is? Well, given that I'm a demographic specialist, I'll just pull a number out of my ass and guess.
It is 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion. Just ballpark it.
A billion?
15 million,
15 million.
maybe. I don't know. I'm not a demographer. And it also
This is an example of me talking too much. Doug doesn't like this.
depends on where they go, right?
15 million per year?
If you if you divide the United States at the Mississippi, right, on the east side, 80% of the population is there. The other 20% lives west of that.
15 million.
Jim Bob, I don't think most countries I don't think are better or worse than others, but in the sense where somebody is seeking asylum because their country is trying to get them, I think in that case, yeah, their country's pretty shitty, right? If they've got a political party that's out to get them, yeah, that's bad. He said, you contradicted yourself. You said there are no better countries, yet you're defending asylum seekers. If you're consistent, you could tell them the country they're seeking isn't better. Also, there's a difference here. There's a distinction that needs to be made. Countries versus governments. There are better and worse governments. There aren't necessarily better and worse countries, because countries, that's a bit broader. Countries consist of, there's a government that runs the country, administers certain processes, and that government can have certain problems, certain bad policies, et cetera, et cetera. The country as a whole, though, if you're talking about them, would consist of the people, the culture, its heritage, its history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that it's really valuable to try to say this country is better than that country, because country is too vague when you're trying to compare those two things. If you're trying to compare things like government policies, it is objectively the case that if somebody is trying to leave the country of Venezuela because that government wants them dead and they want to come to the United States because the United States government is not actively seeking their assassination, that's a benefit to them. So I'll admit, in clarification, I don't think that I contradict myself, but to just spell it out, that's the point. Does that mean they should be able to go to any country that isn't as aggressive as their gov, for example, US versus Latvia? It depends on where they can get to. It depends on the amnesty rules of that country. In the United States, we recognize that they have the right to declare amnesty here, and we give them a court date to review their claim. There's a lot of international laws that are part of that, and depending on the country where a refugee ends up, they can make that claim. This happens in the EU quite a bit. So I'm not exactly sure they should be able to go to any country that is. Yes, they should. If you've got individuals that are living in a country and that government in that country, a political party usually, that's usually how the government changes in that direction, decides that certain people in that country need to be targeted for assassination, that will usually trigger a refugee problem, right? Those people are going to escape that country to get away from being killed by that current government. Can they go to any country that's less aggressive? They should. Yes. And they would. Oftentimes they will start with the neighboring countries. So say that this happened in Argentina, you would go to Uruguay, Chile, or Brazil, and then make your way to the United States, or make your way to the UK, make your way to Canada, make your way to the EU. I hope that helps. In case you're thinking about fleeing the country that actively wants to kill you. If you live in a country that actively has a government that actively wants you dead. I wonder what Doug would say if someone proposed the USA could allow 10 million foreigners to become citizens overnight with little to no noticeable change to the average person. That would be an interesting thought experiment, I think. You know what? I think he would be I actually do think he'd be like, "Oh, you know what? I don't care. If you can show me that it's not going to be a burden on the economy, I'd be for it." But he would stomp down hard on the idea that it wouldn't be a burden on the economy. And he would start fudging around the margins of that thought experiment, like I did with his thought experiments. Jim Bub says, fair enough, just making sure it's consistent, which opens up a lot of other options for asylum, including shitty countries who have a decent government. Again, yes. It depends on where they can go. They could go to a government, they could go to a country that has a very responsive administration, but the country itself doesn't have a lot of resources to handle refugees. Do you know what they're probably going to do? If they're part of the international community, they're going to find a way to move those people on to countries with those refugee resources. That's the point. Pat says, it's almost like Pinecreek doesn't know how many major internal conflicts China has experienced in the past 200 years. Read a book, Doug. Doug doesn't read. He's admitted that. He just doesn't.
Not per year. When I asked you to guess, you said 15 million. You mean 15 million for what time period?
I think 15 million over the the course of 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think
so
the
over the last
good.
over the last 4 years, the amount who have come in is about 15 million. Agreed?
Is it? I know there's been about 3 million in the last 4.
Okay, if it were true, if it were true that 15 million people has come in under the Biden administration, would you say, "Oh, that's enough? Seal the borders"?
No,
Why?
I don't think that you. I don't think the idea of sealing the border makes sense. That doesn't.
Again, Doug is goofing this kind of stuff up. Like sealing the border to do what? The fact that people come here doesn't mean that they stay here and become residents. He's treating this like this weird issue. Like if he watches Fox News and he sees somebody with a backpack jump over the Rio Grande, that person's here to stay. Maybe, probably not. Let's face it, probably not. But he's acting like, oh well, we're just letting them in. Like, no, most of those people get arrested. They get a court date. They declare asylum. They're waiting on a court date. They're here legally waiting for that court date. And then in the meantime, they're just sort of kind of left in an economic limbo. The catch and release system, as it were. They caught them. They declared asylum. They're waiting for their court date. Until then, they're here legally. They're not undocumented. They're not illegal. They're here legally, pending the law. And he's acting like, well, we need to do something to keep them from even crossing the border. Why? If they come over, like, hey, how you doing? Are you staying? Like, yeah, I'm buying a house in Tucson, Arizona, and now that I'm here, I'm gonna take a bunch of white people's jobs. Like, no, we can't allow that. Is that what they're doing? I'm not really sure.
Make a lot of sense.
Okay, wait a minute.
There's 2 different goals going on here, right? Like if you got people crossing the border back and forth, that doesn't make a difference. If you got people, even if you got people crossing illegally,
Yeah, it doesn't. It makes no difference. This has nothing to do with the actual population of the United States.
the issue is whether or not those people, when they cross over, they have a claim to stay here, a legal claim. And in a lot of cases, they do. But they it's the sort of catch and release program. They got arrested. They declared amnesty. They're waiting for their court trial, right? That's going to take a while. So while they're waiting, they can be.
Why are you talking about this?
Because the number of people that are coming in, they're allowed to stay here because of that administrative process. And the idea that if somebody not related to that process comes over,
it's likely that Doug went through tons of red tape bullshit and is arguing from a not fair position. Maybe. I mean, he was here as like a permanent resident for 10 years and then became a citizen. He just got a citizenship last year. But some of the things that he said about voting tells me that the citizenship tests are not great at teaching citizens, like basic civics. So yeah. Yeah, but they're here breathing our freedom air. That air belongs to Americans. What if loosening borders reduced long-term illegal immigration and expedited asylum procedures like it did under Reagan? Exactly. Making them looser doesn't necessarily mean that your country is less secure. The opposite can happen. And what Doug seems to be shooting for, he's assuming that the thing that we need is a system that doesn't allow somebody to cross into the country under false pretenses ever. 100%. They can never get over here, which would require a wall from San Diego to Houston. Well, not Houston, but to the Gulf of Mexico, sky high, with cameras and guns and turrets to make sure what happens. None of these people cross at a bad area. Tunnels. They'll tunnel under that wall, or they'll do what I would suggest. They will jump. Mexico is a part of a peninsula, so they'll just take a boat and go around the wall. Which happens.
If they get tagged, they can get sent back.
But I asked you about limits, and I asked you to guess, and I thank you for your answer. You guessed 15 million is the limit, because we were talking about Mexico. And Mexico, I asked, why aren't they staying in Mexico? And you said, because, well, Mexico has deemed that they're at their limit, sort of thing, based on stats.
No, I said that a lot of them do stay in places like Mexico.
Yes.
Even the ones that are coming through the United States are on their way somewhere else.
Then I asked you about it.
Might be on their way to Canada.
Then I asked you, should there be limits on how many people can come in from other countries to be residents here in the United States? And you said yes, correct?
The number of recognized citizens,
residents, or to be citizens. Yes.
That takes years to determine. I should have called him out on this doofus ass question. They don't get to come here and just say, I'm a citizen now. That's not a thing.
Possibly, but I don't know where you would set that limit at.
Earlier, I think you said yes, and now you're saying possibly.
Doug is talking about an immigration system that does not exist. This is Fantasyland shit.
And then when I asked you to guess, you said 15 million. And then when I actually said that I think 15 million has come in during the Biden administration, should we seal the borders? You said no.
The borders can't be sealed in the way that you're talking about. What you're talking about is a pipe dream.
This is why
it's a pipe dream.
It's difficult to talk to people like you.
Why is it difficult to talk to somebody who's telling you facts? You cannot fucking put a wall up. You can. You can attempt to construct a giant wall from San Diego to the Gulf of Mexico to restrict the southern border from people physically crossing over at non-affirmed entry points. That does not mean that people are not going to violate immigration because they flew in or boated in or tunneled in. Sweet fancy fuck. What the shit? Talking to conservatives about this issue is impossible. It's like trying to you're trying to hold on to an issue, but it's like trying to grip onto a fistful of sand because you just spell out. Well, wait a minute. What if they do this? What if they go there? What if they end up there? Who the fuck cares? Are you concerned about security? Or are you concerned about national purity? What the fuck are you talking about? What are you actually concerned about? Because what you're talking about makes zero fucking sense at all. 0 sense. The fact that somebody from another country comes here and then outstays their welcome happens all the fucking time. In the 90s, the number one illegal demographic in this country was the Irish. They didn't come through a fucking wall. They came on boats and planes. Planes first. Number one method of travel. And they overstayed their tourist visas. Entered legally, stayed illegally. Do you hear guys like Doug complaining about the plague in the 90s of too many Irish people being in this country? The resources it takes? What about the libraries? What about the hospitals? What about the schools? All these Mick kids are all over the place now, here illegally, and they're hatching kids out left, right, and center. Little Irish anchor babies all over the fucking place. Did they care? They did not give a fuck about that issue. And it was an issue. They were the number one demographic that was violating that issue. Number one. But Now, Fox News shows people with a tan crossing from the south to the north on the news and says invasion. And this guy's cockatoo thing points straight up, and he's going to vote for Trump because he's an idiot. He's actually buying this shit.
Because you're getting into the details of minutia of what sealing the border actually means. What I'm talking about is
What does it mean?
what I'm talking about is we should there be limits for how many people come in the country? Yes or no, in your opinion?
Those are already in place. No, and I don't. I think that free flow borders are better.
Okay, so
That's policy.
so your answer is no. There should be no limits to how many people can come into the country. Is
To cross over into the country. Yeah. The trick here that Doug doesn't get, can they stay? Can they stay?
that's your answer?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now imagine you're a smart guy. You can use your imagination. Imagine 100 million people
Does he think I'm smart because I take too long talking?
want to come into the United States. Question: do you think this is a good thing, bad thing, or neutral?
Good. If they want to come here, that's a good thing.
Over, let's say,
Neutral.
a period of
I think I said in this case, I think I said neutral because it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But if you've got 1 million people from a variety of different countries, or even one country that are willing to come here, they want to move here. That says something about your country, right? Like your country might be doing something right if a bunch of people want to move from their country to this one.
I don't know, 2 to 3 years.
Neutral.
Neutral. Question.
Yeah.
Question. Do you think that would put a strain on our infrastructure, like hospitals and schools? Yes or no? Lean yes, lean no.
Yeah. Yes, it could.
It could. So why do you say neutral when you
Let me know if you might be available tomorrow. I am available tomorrow. I'm going to be off for the rest of the week. So whenever you want to do something, because we had a couple of different topics that we were thinking about possibly going over, let me know. DM me in Discord or shoot me an email. Yeah, I should be available for whatever.
admit that it can cause stress on things like schools and hospitals?
Just because it causes stress doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
Right.
Okay. Do you think it's bad if there's not enough schools for kids?
I'll admit that was a little bit indirect. I'll admit that. Because I do think that it would cause stress on that infrastructure. I don't think that stress on that infrastructure would be bad. I think that could lead to reforms and things like that. I should have been more straightforward in answering him like, yes, it would be a stress. I don't think that stress would be bad. I should have just said that. And I was a little bit cagey there. So
Kids and not enough hospitals for sick people. Do you think that's bad?
What?
Do you think it's bad if there's not enough schools to educate children and not enough hospitals to take care of the sick?
that would be bad. But embedded in his loaded question is the United States has run out of schools and run out of hospitals. We haven't. Like, there's a difference between the availability of those options, the delivery of those options, and the scalability of those options. That was what kind of threw me off with this.
Yes, that could be bad, but we already have that in late stage capitals, right?
So, okay, you just admitted, yes, that's bad. Or you said could be bad. Now,
Jack says, straight in the infrastructure, my God, we might have to increase the workforce, but where will we get the workers? I almost went there. I almost went there in this discussion. I did want to bring that up. Like, well, you know what? If you need to be able to scale up those industries, bringing in a bunch of doctors, nurses, teachers from other countries might be a good way to start. Like he says, don't forget we're supposed to be on Grindr later. We are. Appointment reminded. meeting kept.
Now,
It could be bad.
if having an unlimited number of immigrants come in and it causes a strain on
Having them come in to do what? To stay? To request asylum? To visit? Like, what is he talking? Like, immigrants. Okay, the vast majority of the groups that are coming across the borders are not immigrants. They're refugees. They are refugees seeking asylum from governments that are actively trying to eliminate them. Or, there's other circumstances in their country that are causing them issues. They're seeking safety. That's not them just like showing up and being like, you know what, I can get a cushier job in the United States versus where I was in Guadalajara. Especially since they're not from Guadalajara. They're from Venezuela or El Salvador or Honduras or Nicaragua. Fuck.
hospitals and schools, which you admitted that could be bad, then
It could be bad, but the way to deal with that, can you scale those services up? To what degree can you scale those services up? And are some of the people that are coming across the border possibly capable of being integrated into the upscalability of those services to deal with that influx? Complicated, nuanced, talking too much, more than 10 seconds. Jefferson, you're canceled. Fuck.
you would have to admit that having unlimited number of immigrants could be bad, correct?
Could be.
There you go. Progress.
Is it?
How is that progress?
Is it bad?
It-
You were voting for a guy that says that it definitely is bad. Not could be.
what's definitely bad?
Those. So
The guy that he's willing to vote for, the one that he thinks mirrors his values, isn't saying that immigration could be bad. He's saying it definitely is. These people coming from these countries, the country itself, Mexico, is actually sending the worst people it can find to the United States. That was his original claim back in 2016. It wasn't that. It was an interesting claim because a lot of people, I think, confused it. They were like, well, Trump is saying that all Mexicans are rapists. No, he wasn't saying that all Mexicans were rapists. He was saying that all Mexicans who have come here were sent here by the Mexican government because they are rapists, and therefore all Mexicans in the United States are, it follows, rapists and drug dealers and murderers. That was what he said. It was worse than what he actually said when everybody's like, oh, well, he just said that all Mexicans were rapists and murderers. Like, he didn't. It was a little bit more nuanced than that, and the nuance made it worse. Chucklefuck there is going to vote for that dipshit. The guy that he's voting for is not established a candidacy or a policy position on the idea that certain kinds of immigration could be bad. He is voting for a guy that has told everyone that all immigration is bad. That's the guy that he wants to vote for. So don't get it twisted. And if I'm talking too much and taking too long to make that point, I sincerely apologize. But if you're voting for Donald Trump because you're genuinely concerned about the issues of immigration, you're a fucking corrupt piece of shit.
So it's definitely bad in your view.
Well, I think, yes, if you have a disorderly rush, it'd be like,
Why would it be?
it'd be like
Why would it be disorderly?
it'd be like you'd say you and I started a restaurant together, and we open
Comparing
it
the
up,
border to a
and
restaurant.
we're so successful. Let's say we're people want to come to our restaurant that we have a flood of people coming in. One could even say that it's a fire hazard. I mean, we can't even hold these number of people in our restaurant, right? And then, but now
Have 20 million Ukrainians moved to the U.S.? I think it's something like that. It's a large group. There's actually quite a few here in the state, in my state. Relatives of mine that worked for some companies nearby, some of the refugees were brought over here and got schooling in like trade schools and stuff, whether it was driving or commercial driving or something like that. And they've run across guys who are Ukrainians who are driving freight, and they're happy to be here because they're not in a war zone. So, yeah, that has happened. Do we pay attention to the fact that several million? I don't know if it's 20 million. Let's say it's just 2. That's 2 million too many people, according to Doug. Right?
Apply this to the country. It's not like a fire hazard for space, but it's a hazard in terms of the infrastructure, the stress on schools, and all social structures that you agreed could be bad. So wouldn't it be better to have an orderly way to have immigrants come in and have a cap?
Okay, this sounds more accurate. The USA took in 187,000 Ukrainians. Canada accepted over 900,000. That's huge. That's a lot of refugees.
If you're trying to stress test it based on logistics in the country, yeah, it could be.
Yes, I'm a practical guy, so I'm talking about logistics here.
Those programs are scalable.
Right, but I don't think that the logistics actually. I don't think that in terms of places like
I'm trying to figure out what that sticker is on his water bottle.
some of the restrictions that have happened in like the EU are actually working out particularly well. The example that I was going to give was somebody like Oscar Wilde. He decided that he wanted to retire in I think it was Czech Republic or something like that. Went there, lived in a hotel, died of alcohol.
Jefferson, I literally heard 2 minutes earlier, and he was mean to you. Who stuck a stick up this guy's bunghole? Well, you did, for one, Taco. Let's be fair. You went after him pretty hard, which was funny. I didn't. By the way, full disclosure, I didn't entirely agree with some of the points you made. I thought your video was funny, but I didn't entirely agree with your point on it because Doug has made arguments similar to the atheist presuppositional apologetic in the past. He's done that years ago. His is not. It is not on a good foundation. He basically just sort of does a thing like, I'm insisting that this is the case, and so are you. So therefore, we can agree to disagree, kind of thing. It doesn't work well. But he has done that before. So, but that being said, when you're saying this 2 minutes earlier, and he was mean to you, after this conversation, he kicked me off. He kicks me off like mid-sentence. He gets into other callers and he keeps dropping my name. So I think I'm kind of living rent free in there.
Because he could. Right now, that you can do that if you're wealthy.
20 million Ukrainians have moved to the US. That means there are only 13 million left in the Ukraine. Yeah, I think Nicola's numbers were better. I think it was like 187,000 refugees came here, and 900,000 were taken in by Canada. That sounds about right. And I think if they had their druthers, in fact, one of my bosses was from Ukraine, and she was from the conflict zone. She was from the eastern side of it. Her university was in the what do they call it? The Donetsk or something like that, whatever. And she came here, and I think that actually kind of facilitated her staying here. She got here and went to college, and then just kind of stayed and got her master's degree, and then got a PhD because she couldn't go home. When this stuff broke out, I remember asking her, like, hey, how are things going on with like your dad and your brothers over there? And they're like, well, last time I checked, they were good. I haven't heard from them in 6 months. They're in hiding, kind of thing. Something like that. It was like, oh. She's like, yeah, it can be hard to like get in touch with them. But she had relatives that lived on the western side of Ukraine where she could kind of keep tabs on stuff. But yeah, she hadn't been back in a while. Yeah, crazy shit. Crazy stuff. I was just fucking with him because I said I watched his shit. I would never watch his shit. Yeah, fair enough. I thought it was kind of funny, but yeah, Doug definitely had an issue with me, mostly because I talk for too long. I talk for 10 seconds, you talk for 10 seconds, and we make this pithy. Thank you, Doug, for policing my speech for me.
Citizenship is for the poor. If you're very, very wealthy, you can just buy your way into past these borders and just,
Jail. Is it me or does Doug have old man baby head? Yeah. It's not just you.
forsake a lot of this kind of stuff.
Donetsk. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
So a lot of what we're talking
Well, let's talk about the wealthy and the poor,
doesn't matter.
because I think a lot of what leads you to have your answers to these questions is your values, right? That's fair. Same with me. my
I care
values.
too much about
If we were looking at
Words.
what is best for a country, is it better to have someone who is financially independent come into our country, or someone who's financially dependent to come into our country? If you had to choose one or the other, we've got two people at the border.
I don't know what financially dependent and independent mean. Like, right? Like, because you're independent, you're dependent on something when it comes to finances. You're dependent on your money. If you've got somebody that's showing up here with $5 million in cash, where they fucking get that money from? Right? These guys said this, right? When it came to like the whole Fast and Furious kind of thing. If somebody just showed up and said, hey, I'd like to be a citizen of your country. I'm brown as hell and I'm straight from Venezuela. Like, well, what are your credentials? Well, I have a PhD in PhDism and I have $10 million in my pocket. Doug here is going to be like, sign that guy up. Wrap him in a fucking flag. This guy came from a quote unquote shithole country that we should be suspicious of. And he made millions of dollars in that economy and is showing up here and like, I'm coming over. And you need to let me, because in my economy, I was virtuous. I won. I made money in my economy. Remember the economy you didn't trust? The economy in that country that you were suspicious of? That you were constantly throwing a side-eye glaze at? Yeah, I made money there. And now I'm coming here. And you can't say no because you value money over people. So fuck you, pay me, give me what I deserve. I deserve to be a citizen in your country because I made money over there. It sounds like Doug is like A-okay with that scenario. But the guy that shows up here like, hey, I'm showing up here. I do not have prospects. The reason that I'm coming to your country is because my government in that country, currently the political party, killed my wife and disappeared my kids, and I'm next. Can I come here? And Doug's going to be like, do you have $5 million, man? If you don't, I got to let in the guy that wants to go. Again, blurring immigration and a refugee crisis together and trying to make them all sound like the same thing. Like, who do we pick? Who do we take? Oh my God. Can't the market decide? If they're wealthy, they get to come and go as they please because the market determined those weaknesses. They already determined who is a winner and a loser. I don't have to think about it. This is Doug's position. And if it's not his position, I'm very interested to have him on my show and he can discuss what his actual political views are rather than me volunteering them for him.
One is financially independent. One is financially dependent, meaning they.
Okay, for financially independent, they have proof that they've got $5 million from where? Because if you do a deep dive and you find out, hey, we're going to bring in this guy, he's got $5 million. He's a millionaire. He's going to come into the United States and he's going to be a job creator. That $5 million is backed by a cartel. It turns out that guy is financially dependent on a cartel. His existence is laundering money for a cartel. Congratulations, Doug. You just facilitated organized crime in the United States and stamped it with the imprimatur of Uncle Sam. Fucking stupid.
They need food stamps. They need welfare for maybe even over a year. Which is better for our country?
People, they can't get those benefits here. Which doesn't make any sense.
Which is better for our country? For someone who's financially independent.
It's a false. The people that are coming in that you claim that have the need for this, they can't come in. Well, they can come in, but they can't get those benefits.
They can't get social.
Well,
they can't get
so they just die of hunger.
No.
No, they end up relying on their own hard work and maybe charities, private charities.
Oh, so the government doesn't provide any assistance.
Can Doug provide me evidence of state resources, federal resources that go to immigrants in terms of food and shelter? I hear a lot of fucking, people talking like this. I hear them talking a big game. Like, well, they show up here and they get the bennies. They get to live in a 4-star hotel that got converted into an apartment complex. They don't even have to buy their meals. It's surf and turf. 3 meals a day for these illegals because they're here to vote for Biden. Like, 1, they can't do that. 2, they're not getting those meals. 3, they're not in a 4-star hotel. They're in what was formerly a 4-star hotel that was claimed by the state because it was dilapidated and condemned, and now has been retrofitted into refugee housing. It was maybe a halfway house at some point. That's where they're at. Like, so just pump the brakes, calm your ass down about the stuff those people are getting that Doug is super fucking thirsty to get. Like, wait a minute. Where's my free biscuit? Where's my free documents? How come I don't get that stuff? Well, I'll tell you why. You're Canadian. You don't count.
Some governments might, like local states or maybe city charities or
Okay,
something like
so
that.
when a
The federal government doesn't provide. If somebody crosses over, the federal government doesn't automatically provide somebody who just passed into the United States with Social
so
Security.
someone who's financially dependent comes across, they are dependent on help from local charities and local governments, correct?
They might, but a lot of these people, remember, these are the same people that paid money to have a coyote shuffle them across. So it's like they're showing up with zero cash. They have no cash to use in the United States. They've never heard of a Denny's. They don't know that they're going to have to be able to buy meals or stop at a gas station, grab some snacks. They have no money on them at all. This is This is fascinating to me. Like, they can hold all of these narratives in their head. Well, they have no money, but they paid these coyotes to get them across the border. With what? Oh, with money. All of their money? Well, no, maybe not all of it. Okay, so they're not penniless when they show up. Well, no. I mean, maybe they've got enough for 3 or 4 meals, but then it's straight to the soup kitchen. Okay. Well, that's money out of my pocket. Do your taxes go to the local Catholic diocese soup kitchen? Is there something that Catholic church is doing that I should be aware of? Oh no. I mean, it's a charity, but I mean, there's only so much charity to go around. Like, oh, is there? That's interesting, because when we talk about issues like providing healthcare for all of our citizens, people like Glenn Beck would be like, oh no, just leave that to the churches. Charity can make up for that. But it's super fucking limited when it comes to, like, well, there's only so much charity to go around, don't you know? Oh, is there? That's what I said before. That was my criticism when you wanted charity to be the mainstay example of how you're going to address a situation like providing healthcare to a population of underserved Americans. And like, oh no, it's fine. There's plenty of charity organizations. But when it comes to providing charity for immigrants, well, there's a bowl of soup and then they're out. These guys are transparently stupid. This is a constant grift of running this thing based on the idea of scarcity. There's not enough. There's not enough of this. There's not enough of that. There's not enough America. There's not enough space. There's not enough logistics. There's not enough common sense. Blah, blah, blah. We're running out. What we do have an unlimited amount of is wallage. We can just produce all the wallage from ground to sky to prevent any of this unfortunate crap from ever even intruding into our lives. And then when the cameras cut to scenes of the border, it just shows this weird ass wall and nobody being able to pass over it, which means Republicans now have nothing to campaign on except for trans issues. You should have asked Doug, if you didn't eat breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt yesterday evening for a quick temperature check?
Well, so you have a problem with somebody coming over who wants to earn a wage,
Lean yes, lean no.
would you classify?
When someone comes over who has no money
I would let them in.
and has
I don't think that that's a particularly good reason to determine whether or not they're going to be a citizen.
okay, so here's my question for you, Jefferson, and these are very uncomfortable questions for, I think, people from
They're not uncomfortable questions. Doug is just asking basic questions like, well, here's the thing. I determine a person's wealth based on the amount of money that they bring over. The more money, the more human. That's Doug's position. My position is I wouldn't evaluate somebody's claim to asylum or to immigration, because those are two separate fucking things, based on the amount of money they had in their pocket or in their bank account. Do we disagree on this? We absolutely do, because Doug doesn't see people. He sees a balance sheet. And the bigger the balance, the better the person, because that's his religion.
your side of the aisle to answer, because it's a
They're not. They're superficial.
because it's a moral dilemma type question. So the question is this:
You know, JL, I need to watch that movie. I love Gareth Edwards stuff. I really liked. I didn't think it was a great movie, but the creator, the visuals in that movie were fucking great. I love the way that guy makes movies. I love the look of them. That everything looks grounded. I really need to watch that flick. I think it's on Tubi. If nobody knows who Gareth Edwards is, he did Rogue One, Star Wars' second best property. The number one best is Andor, also written by Tony Gilroy. Those are the two best, as far as I'm concerned, in the controversial opinion. I think that movie and that show are the top two quality picks for Star Wars entertainment, even beating Empire Strikes Back, which is a good movie. I think Empire Strikes Back is a close third to Rogue One. The only knocks I would give to Rogue One, I thought the music was stupid. The soundtrack was dorky. It was Michael Giacchino. It was corny. But other than that, damn great movie. Gareth Edwards did that one, shot it with his massive ass wide format digital camera that they used to shoot like Beale Street and a variety of other movies. I think they shot Joker with it too. Fucking awesome. Visuals are, I mean, shit looks real. It looks great. And if you have not watched Andor and you've got a subscription to Disney, watch that shit. Great show. You don't even have to be a Star Wars fan. There's no Jedi circulating around in that show, which is kind of a controversial take, but it's great TV. Mandalorian is good too. It's not as good as Andor. It just isn't. Mandalorian is an entertaining show, especially since it's sort of like riffing on like almost like westerns, like The Rifleman and Have Gun Will Travel, stuff like that. It feels like one of those shows. It's a lot of fun. Mandalorian is better than Book of Boba Fett because that one's got a lot of weaknesses in it. Andor though, writing wise, dialogue wise, nothing beats that show. Nothing.
It's a moral dilemma. If you own, so you're saying the only people that you want to allow in easily are people who are already wealthy.
This is my question to you.
If they're okay, let me ask you something. If they're already wealthy, what?
No lightsabers. There are no lightsabers. There are lightsabers in Rogue One because Vader shows up. There are no lightsabers, as far as I know, in Andor. Which is good. Also, Andor has a performance in the middle of it when the main character ends up in a detention facility. It has a great performance from Andy Serkis, who's a fucking treasure. And his performance in that show is fantastic. Everybody's performance in that show is great, but his performance in that is he's always good. But in that show, he is remarkably good. Why am I talking about the show so much? Let's get back into this. Watch Andor if you haven't watched it. And be patient with it. Give it some time. And then Google Tony Gilroy and his brothers, especially Dan Gilroy, who wrote and directed Nightcrawler. Watch that shit too. That is a damn near perfect movie. Watch that shit. The Gilroys are great.
What do they want to do here?
Maybe they love Disneyland and they want to move close to Disneyland. I don't know. But here's my question to you. Jefferson,
Okay.
here's my question to you. We got
It's not Star Wars without space wizards with laser swords. Dan. I know. Yeah, without without Gandalf with laser blades. Yeah, I get it. So, Peter says, "Are you implying there's a better Star Wars show than the Christmas show special?" Surely you just. Yes, I'm going to go out on that limb and say, yeah, I think what the Gilroys gave us with Rogue One and Andor is much better than the Christmas special. But for all of you out there, if you have access to Disney, either through Hulu or vice versa or whatever, watch both. Watch the Christmas special before you watch Andor, and then you'll really appreciate Andor.
2 people at the border, and you are in charge, okay, of who gets in, and only one person can come in. Now, one person has, let's say, $5 million in their bank account. The other person has 0 in their bank account. And you don't know anything else at this point. We're going to do baby steps, one at a time. That's all you know at this point. And I ask you, where are you leaning? Who are you going to let in? The person with 5 million or the person with 0?
Person with 0. I don't know where that 5 million came from. And you're going to need a forensic accountant to figure out how that person is so wealthy. And what are they doing trying to cross the border?
Jefferson, why
Not going to let me finish.
would you let in the person with 0?
What difference does it make?
Why?
He's going to actually try to say, like, the only reason that I'm concerned about this is I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the immigrants, but from the perspective of the country. You've got 2 applicants that want to come into the United States, and they're petitioning. They're showing up, and for whatever reason, the fantasy option here is like, I want to come into the United States, and I'm going to become a citizen, as if this is a thing. They show up. One of them has $5 million. The other one has 0. And Doug's thing is like, well, which one would you be more inclined to take? The one with $0. Why? You've got a person that wants to become a citizen here that was a citizen somewhere else. And where they were a citizen, they were able to amass a wealth of $5 million. How did they do that? Under what circumstances? Where did that $5 million come from? It's great that they've got it. Sure. Are they going to be putting that into practice, or are they becoming a citizen here to dodge taxes from whatever country they're coming from? Who knows, right? But according to Dingus here, he's like, oh, well, it's better to let that person in than the person with $0. As a country, no, it isn't. Because the person that's showing up that wants to come here and doesn't really have any assets at all and wants to show up here to work can't do any damage to the country. The person with $5 million certainly fucking can. They have the money to do it.
Why would you let in the person with 0 versus 5 million? What's your reasoning?
They're showing up here to what? Try to get a job?
You don't know. You don't know yet. All we know at this point.
Would Doug let me in if I had a bag full of gold teeth? Yes.
Is we got 2 immigrants.
One has $5 million and one has 0.
Right. That's all.
Which one can do the most damage to the economy? The one with $0.
The one that is the least threat to the United States is the one with no assets coming in. That person cannot do anything to change the economy. The one with $5 million can make some changes super fucking fast. Also, that's just $5 million. Let's say they're coming in with $50 million, right? Or $500 million. Half of what can they change? What can they do? A lot more than somebody with 0. The person coming in with 0 is probably fleeing persecution if they're a refugee, right? And this is a distinction that Doug doesn't want to make. Are they a refugee or are they an immigrant? If they're an immigrant and they're trying to come over here, okay, let them in. If they're a refugee, okay, let them in. If they're the government in their home country is trying to kill them, well, they don't have a job and they don't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of saved up money. Okay. Threat posed to the United States? Negligible. So why bother?
I would let in the one with $0 because I can't bet where the $5 million on the other person came from.
Okay. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You're suspicious of where that $5 million came from. So therefore you would let it.
That person has power. Money is power, and that person has more power than a person with no money. Doug is advocating that we allow people to come from other countries into this country and get fast tracked for citizenship or get priority for consideration for citizenship because they have power. Why? That's the question I would ask him. Why? Why would you be amenable to that?
Than the person who
You're
has
not.
zero?
In your thought experiment, you're not suspicious as to why somebody with $5 million is trying to cross the border in the same way that somebody
Okay,
with no dollars
okay.
is.
So you answered my question. You said you're suspicious of where that money came from. So you would take the person with zero money. Okay.
Okay.
So now I'm going to give
Again, this is a left-wing criticism, right, Peter? He's like, has anyone explained to Doug that the one with 5 million made that off their countrymen? So they come to the U.S. to make money off U.S. people. This is good for U.S. people. How? This is sort of where I was going. Yeah. But Doug doesn't get this because if you make money, money means you won. Winning means you're a winner and a good person. So you get citizenship. No money means you're a loser, and we don't need to give you anything at all.
you more information. The person with the $5 million earned it.
By far the best Star Wars character was Mama Chewbacca from the Christmas special. Do not bring that. Wasn't she wearing lipstick in that? I think she's actually got lipstick on. It's fucking gross. Oh my God. Oh, that's special. Ugh. Oh God.
Legally through, I don't know, starting a business. Now, who are you going to let in?
And I can determine this when they're crossing the border.
This is the thought
I love this. I bring these kind of questions up like this thought experiment. I can determine these things safely while they're crossing the border. Like, oh, you got 5 million, you got 0. I'm letting in the guy with the suspicious $5 million satchel. If one of them comes in and says, you know what, I've made $5 million in my country and I would like to cross here so that I can establish a government, excuse me, a business in your country, let me through. And then another guy's like, hey, oh God, I just walked here from Venezuela. They killed my wife. They disappeared my kids. I got to declare asylum because that government's out to get me. Yeah, I don't have any money or any resources at all. Can you help me out? Which one am I going to pick? Refugee. Like, yeah, come on in. Let's talk about your situation. What threat do you pose to the country? 0. Suspicious weirdo with mustache doing this and saying, I've got $5 million. I can be a job creator in your country. Let me in. Give me what I want and I'll go away. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy in his neck. And Doug's basically like, oh, no. That I like the cut of that guy's jib. Get Captain Sinestro in here right now. Yeah.
experiment, Jefferson. You're a smart guy. You can entertain thought experiments.
Your thought experiment is starting to break down in terms of like allowing people to cross, right? If I'm trying to determine whether or not somebody's a security risk or not, the amount of money that they have on their bank account is not necessarily an indication of whether or not they're a threat to the country, one way or the other. So it's
But right, I think I still hold to that. But if apples to apples, if I'm indulging in his thought experiment enough, you got a guy standing there with a $5 million case of cash saying, "Hey, I'm coming in here with $5 million. Let me in." And another guy's like, "Hey, I'm showing up here because I need to get away from the country that's actively trying to kill me and probably has killed some of my relatives." And we're just like, oh, I don't know. I can't decide which one of these is more dangerous than the other. Neither one is necessarily dangerous, but the one that I would be willing to bet money on that's less dangerous than the other is the one without $5 million on hand. Just for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake.
It's already a bad thought experiment.
Okay. You know that the 5 million.
Okay. Leave it to JL to get the reference. Give me what I want and I'll go away. He got it. Dung here would be one of the villagers that would side with Linoge. Linoge is the Atlantis wizard that shows up in the New England community during the Storm of the Century story to demand a child as tribute. I actually didn't think, JL, that you would get that. Kudos, my man. Kudos. He got it. All right.
Jefferson, you know the 5 million was earned legally. Now, who would you let in?
How do I know that?
Oh, okay. So they've
In
got
this thought experiment,
okay,
you know
so
this.
the guy with zero.
In this thought experiment,
I would still
you know this. It's a fact.
the person the person with no money easily. The person with 5 million, maybe I'd let them in too.
Okay,
I can only pick one.
you can only pick one, Jefferson. Who are you going to let in? The person with $0 or the person with 5 million?
Person with zero.
The person with $0.
Why?
Because
What's
the
your
person with
reasoning?
5 million,
National security.
the person with 5 million,
The person with $5 million can do a lot in this country when they've got that money in play than the person with $0. The person with $0 is just going to work and try to get a wage and try to pay their taxes and that kind of stuff. The person with $5 million is going to get up to some shit. So which one would I do from the interest of the country? The one with zero, not the one with five.
the dollars has a lot more options than the person with none.
Ah, okay. But you missed. Very good. I really, really appreciate your answer because I think it's an honest answer. You're looking at it from the perspective of the person with $0. But this thought
I'm looking at it from the perspective of the United States. The United States is looking at two applicants coming in, and one of them has $5 million as a resource and the other one has zero. Which one is probably going to be safe? Which one's easier to manage? From a national security standpoint, the one with fewer resources is the one that's easier to manage. The one with $5 million can get up to some shit. Doug completely misses this.
experiment is what is best for our country, not what is.
$5 million is not necessarily great for our country. If those are cartel dollars, would so change the spectrum a guy that represents a cartel shows up and wants to become a permanent resident of the United States, and he's got $50 million, and all $50 million of that it's legal. They've got it in their account. It's fine. Turns out it's actually profits from the Sinaloa cartel. Let them in or don't? Doug, do you let in a representative of the Sinaloa cartel that has legal custody of $50 million of their profits into this country for them to spend on the various enterprises and activities? Should you? Asking for a friend.
Is best for them. This is why I said this is a moral dilemma. So let me.
Why would it be?
Let,
Why would hang on?
Jail, getting me off track again. Dude, Colin Fiore and Tim Daly, voice of Superman, were fucking awesome in that. They were both great, especially Colin Fiore. Fucking love that actor. Fun fact, King hinted that Linoge is actually Flag. Yeah, and if you don't know who Flag is, read The Stand or Eyes of the Dragon. He's in both of those, maybe more. But yeah, he's a recurring villain. Oh, he's also in the Dark Tower as well. But yeah, Storm of the Century, Linoge, as I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but Linoge was one of my favorites, mostly because Colin Fiore played him. But I love that line, "Give me what I want and I'll go away." And he is creepy as shit through that entire miniseries. It's dated as hell and the special effects are not good, but watch it because he's great in it. Tim Daly is great in it too. He's a treasure.
Why would it be better for us to? You got somebody that's coming from another country that earned $5 million and another person that's showing up from the same country with no dollars. Why is it better for our country if that person, like, let's to keep this in like Trump terms, where did that person get those $5 million from in their weird economy?
I already told you they started their own business legally.
Rags to riches. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps in their country, in their economy, and now they've got $5 million in their big fat wallet, and now they're coming here to be a job creator in our economy. Nothing to worry about. Jack says, Doug wants to deny the American dream of rags to riches to everyone except people who already achieved it. Yeah, it's just riches. It's just riches to riches. Yeah.
And you can just determine that right there at the border.
Yes, in this thought experiment, we know this. So let me ask you.
Props to you, Daniel Cooper. You got the reference. Couldn't remember the character name or the movie name. I don't blame you. That it was a deep cut. I'm still stunned that JL knew what that was. I really am. I mean, of anybody that watches my show, I figured if anybody catches this reference, it's going to be him. He knew it was Linoge. I'm sad, challenged, frightened frightened of his encyclopedic memory of pop cultural stuff, or he's got Google on hand. He's like, wait, I've heard that expression before. Chat. Google. Linoge from Storm of the Century.
You again.
Okay.
What is best,
Sorry, I'm starting to ramble.
Do you
now.
want to bring that?
Jefferson? What is best for?
Let me-
What is? Why?
I already tried to argue this. Like, I already tried to give him the point. Like, I think it's better for the country to bring in the person who doesn't have the monetary means to fuck the country up a little bit with their $5 million. If they come in with $0, they're not going to change much, right?
Why are you resisting
Let me
so
ask you-
much?
No, I just want to ask you this: Are you the kind of guy that's in favor of, like, say, like, I think you can buy your citizenship in St. Kitts for $250,000. I think you can buy citizenship in New Zealand for $5 million.
Lucky Wolfen says it doesn't work that way. The $5 million guy is less likely to get in. It's weird. The old Visa lottery scheme only applied to less affluent countries. Oh, for the lottery, yeah. Because I knew people that were on the lottery from Taiwan, and there's like a whole tier of it. Yeah, so that's true. But what he's promising here is, like, his take on it would be, there's not really a lottery. We just have people queue up, and then we ask what they've got in their bank account, and anybody with $1 million plus get to go to the front of the line and get preferential treatment, I guess. To quote Tucker and Dale, I just got a weird brain. Yeah, you and me both, man.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so money makes rights happen. You're
Sometimes,
You're
yeah,
fine with that.
yeah. You can. To me, it's
Okay.
it's not a constitutional right you're buying, but it's the right to.
Jesus. I have no time to stay, but Jefferson has no moral ground on which to level such charges against the one true God. His epistemic grounding ultimates unnecessary preconditionals. Thank you. At this point, I'm pretty sure that level of trolling is coming from Dr. Josh, but because this is a shared account, I'm not always entirely sure if this is Megan. Other than I'm pretty sure Megan would not put in the effort to do this to me, but Josh would. Good to see you, Dr. Josh. Thanks for stopping in. Good to see you.
live in this country. Yeah. There used to even be.
no, and like in New Zealand, you are actually buying citizenship, so you are then protected by their constitution.
Yeah,
You
you
are
do.
buying constitutional protections for $5 million.
Yeah, if you're buying citizenship, yeah, then fine. But so I answered.
Doug's cool with it, baby. Like, yeah, okay. Citizenship is for sale.
So you're okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So now Jefferson, you see how quickly and easily I answered your question? Can you do the same for me? What is best for the country of the United States to let the person in who has $5 million, who's financially independent, and they got their $5 million legally by starting their own business, or the person with $0, and you can only let in one.
The person with $0 is less of a threat to your country and to your economy because they have less power.
Who are you going to let in? What is best for our country?
I'm still going to let in the one that's coming in with $0 is a striver, right?
Is a driver?
Striver, right? They're going to be striving to make something of themselves. They're going to put themselves to work.
So you're assuming that people with $0 will strive and work harder than someone with $5 million who got their $5 million from starting their own business.
I love Tucker and Dale, these damn college kids. The part where the kids are diving into the wood chipper, they're trying to explain to the cops, these kids just showed up and started jumping into the wood chipper. That's a great movie. Oh, I mean, it's not great, but it's fun. And it's what, Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, both hilarious.
Yes, I would. I mean, if you're putting me in a snap decision kind of thing, yeah, I'm gonna let the person in with $0 in their bank account rather than the person.
Okay, what if I told you?
Also, because
I appreciate it, Joseph Cano.
it's going to take longer to figure out where that $5 million came from. Despite your thoughts.
What if I told you that they have equal?
It's weird. Like during this entire thing, now that I'm showing this, it was constantly spooling up here. I was on camera the entire time on the Discord side. I think that that's fascinating. Like, I don't know what's going on with the feed that he had here, but it's like constantly like doing that rotation thing, like it's trying to load my video. When I was having this conversation with him and I was talking to him through that speaker in my webcam, um, the remarks that he made, you know, I was on the Discord side and had things set up. I could see that I was on his camera. And the weird thing is that I could see this screen and I was on his camera there too. But watching it now, I'm not. That's weird. Discord
Gumption, striving. Who are you going to let in?
What's the point of this thought experiment if I know that?
The point of this thought experiment is to see why exactly you view.
There's no way that I could know that, right? Like,
you sound like a Christian who fights back.
I really do not like what he's doing with this. Like, hey, I'm giving you a thought. Like, he's the one that sounds like a Christian. I'm giving you a hypothetical, and I need you to color within the lines. And when you start to like object to the barriers that I presented, I'm going to call you unrational, irrational, a degenerate, a skeptic, a loony, woke. Those are all pejoratives for Doug. This is the part that I don't really understand. Does Doug not know that people aren't born with businesses? What the fuck is this train of logic? There is no train of logic.
Back so hard on thought experiments.
This thought experiment has.
Thank you, Pragmatic Crystal. I appreciate that, and thank you for being here live. Thanks for that reminder.
It's completely broken down. No, it's completely broken down. There's no reason.
It's literally special pleading. Yeah, it kind of is.
To determine either entry or citizenship based on either of these.
Well, let's do something simpler.
Any of these qualities, right?
Let's do something that might be easier for you. We got two people at the border. One has a contagious disease and one doesn't. Who are you going to let in?
The person without the disease.
I agree.
Or none at all.
Let's do this clip of Representative Jamal Bowman and
to be solved. And I think the best way to solve that of your answers to these questions is your values, right? That's fair. Same with me, my values. If we
Person with you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So now Jefferson, you see how quickly and easily I answered your question?
Although,
that was very easy for you to answer.
If you have a pandemic going, you wouldn't even allow that person in either.
Okay, let's see. Let's get a little bit tougher. We got two people at the border. One is highly, highly skilled in a job that's very, very needed in the United States. The other one has no skills or very low skills. Who are you going to let in?
The high school one.
Is the poor person the disease guy? Of course he is. The guy with $5 million doesn't have any sicknesses. Capitalism won't allow him to get sick. He's been blessed by the gods of money.
Excellent. We're agreed there. We got two people at the border. One who has a history of committing crimes.
Mm-hmm.
The other person has a clear record, and we know both histories. Who are you going to let in?
One with clear record.
Very good. So I agree.
Gen X trims way back at the beginning, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Doug blames Jefferson for his own skill issues. there were some technical issues, but some of that was because I wasn't hooked up to Discord to do any of the streaming. And also, I don't think Doug was entirely prepared for it. He switched it from way back to Discord.
Agree on that one. Now let me ask you this. Is it better to know all these criteria before someone crosses?
I got data input. I'll see everyone in 30 if you're still here. If not, thanks to the stream. Yeah. Catch you later, John. Take it easy. I'll talk to you later. Nicholas, what are the crimes? Yeah, good question. Don't know.
This is the U.S.-Mexico border before they cross. Is it better to know these things than not?
Probably, yeah.
Excellent. I agree. So,
but do they not?
So if it is better to know these criteria before they even cross that line in the sand, wouldn't it be best to have some type of system, as no system is perfect, where we do not let anyone cross that line in the sand until we know the answers to those questions?
No.
Okay, that's where we have a
That doesn't
disagreement.
make sense.
That's where we have a disagreement.
It wouldn't matter because if that person crosses the border, they get tagged, tracked, and they're located, and they find out, okay, this person shouldn't be here. They're going to round them up and they're going to deport them. The fact that they crossed a border doesn't matter. That just might be another crime they committed. So to me, this is just Doug being paranoid. Thank you for that, Pragmatic Crystal. Thanks for the shout out to my Twitter account there. 2 people at the border. One has a history committing a crime in his country that's a right in our country. The other has no criminal record but trafficked people, which was legal in his country. Yeah. Yep. They have no criminal record, but their criminal record in that country maybe overlooks some things that we consider crimes here.
That doesn't follow because they're not here permanently. There's a difference between somebody coming in and staying permanently. The criteria that you mentioned before, those count. They're skilled, they don't have a criminal record, they're not contagious, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those things count in terms of determining whether they can stay here permanently. The idea of them crossing over the border doesn't matter, right? Because you're obviously going to have tourist flows and things like that, or you have people in refugee crises that are coming over and claiming asylum. So those people aren't necessarily going to stay here. So those optics are different.
This is another example of you talking so much. Given the thought experiment, is it better?
That shit right there, that crap right there needs to fucking die a slow death. This is an example of you talking too much. That gaslight and shit right there can fucking shampoo my crotch right there. Fuck off. I'm trying to make a point. If it takes me a minute, give me a minute. Don't be uncharitable and tell me that I'm doing something like what so what? Oh, it's taking you too long to get. The algorithm doesn't like it. My videos don't like it. I can't convert that into a short. Eat a fucking dick. Eat my fucking dick. Don't feature my content if you don't have if you have a problem with it. And here's the thing: if you have a problem tracking my thinking from point A to the end point, that says more about you and your ability to pay attention than it says about me talking. Saying I talk too much from starting from this explanation and leading to a point without being able to illustrate. Did I make a point? Did I make a point when I made that statement? I bet you Doug can't figure that fucking shit out. Oh, this is what I'm talking about. You're talking too long. You're sounding all smart. You're talking like a weirdo. You sound like a woke lib. Like, fuck off, you cockatooed hair weirdo. The fact that people talk a lot on YouTube is going to be a thing when you have things like podcasts on YouTube, which is what I'm basically doing. I talk a lot. Doug does a live show every Thursday and talks a lot. And he wanted to try to volunteer. Like, I wonder if we made transcripts of our videos and fed it into AI, which one of us is more verbose than the others? The fuck does that prove? One of us talks at a 9th grade reading level and the other talks at a 7th grade reading level? Is that how you want to like compare dicks now? Shut the fuck up about this stuff and pay attention to what the fuck I'm talking about. Try to pay attention to the points that I'm making. Don't sit there and be like, oh, you ran on a little too long. My producers are telling me to yank your ass. 3. Fucking basic beige Betty bullshit from this guy.
To know who's coming in.
By the way, Pocket Locker 86, his criticism of Doug already made a response video to that. Pocket Locker's criticism of Doug was withering. I'm using that term loosely. Doug did not like it. I know that Doug didn't like it because he devoted a response short to it. And I think he referred to Pocket Locker as woke. So notice, Pocket Locker, I guess you're too woke to talk about Doug now. YouTube will wash its hands of the fucking Doug.
How did I talk too much?
Given
There it is. Yeah, and I actually right there. I actually did just be like, how do I fucking talk
It's
to
thought
him?
experiment. Is it better to
And he ignored it.
know who's coming into the country for residency or not? Is it better to know these things or not?
It's better. It's better, and that's the ideal. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, but
I agree.
Coming in. Hang on. Coming in for what? Coming in to stay.
One more practicality. Do we in Canada allow the person with conviction of pot possession over someone who hung out on Epstein Island? An interesting question. Now that candidate Trump has 34 felonies under his belt, is he allowed to go to Canada? I'm not sure what Canada's laws are on that. Asking for a friend. I myself am not a felon. Hang on a second. I will be right back. All right, back.
Stay.
Yes, I said that
I mean, to
twice.
visit. Okay. That's the problem. The fact that people are crossing the border and like right-wing news shows that, and it's a scary thing. People just like run across the border. Most of those people are caught and tracked. They end up getting deported later on. So it's not. That's not a big deal.
Later on?
Yeah, they end up getting caught, detained, and then sent back to their home country.
Okay, let me ask you this. What is better? To let someone go across our border, get caught?
Given the number of convictions, Trump is likely to remain barred from crossing the Canadian border as a civilian until at least 5 years after he has served his sentence. Damn. There's a link if anybody wants to take a look at it. Border security will make it hell. So I'm trying to bring up this point here with Doug, and Doug is now going to be like, well, hey, wouldn't it be better if that person never made it into the country at all? Sure, that would be better.
Caught and then
Maybe.
deported later, or
But it wouldn't make a difference. In terms of law enforcement, in terms of actually enforcing like immigration, they crossed over, they got caught, they got tagged, and they got sent back later, or they get caught at the border, or they're prevented from ever crossing over. As far as I'm concerned, it's a win either way. I don't care. This is, to me, this is like the voting thing. Like, well, a person could vote as someone else. Yes, they could do that. Now they need to do that enough times to actually sway an election. Go for it. They're not going to be able to do it. How many votes are they going to be able to cast that way? 3? Are they going to be able to get into 3 different polling locations posing as someone else? Probably not. And what does that mean? That's 3 votes in 3 separate polling districts for 3 separate areas with different candidates. It's the same kind of stuff. Like, oh, it's a threat. No, it's not. Oh, they crossed over. It's a threat. No, it's not. What are they going to do while they're here? What can they do? They can't vote. They don't have access to benefits, no matter what you want to say. They might have access to emergency medical care if they're hurt or something like that, but that usually ends up getting billed to them. Companies will try to chase them down for that money, and if it doesn't, it gets billed to the federal government. So, or gets written off. That's probably the worst case scenario. So why does it matter that they made it here?
not let them cross to begin with? Which is better for that individual?
Don't.
Huh?
I'm going to be honest about this. I don't think that it makes a difference. At all.
You don't think it makes a difference?
It wouldn't make a difference if they got stopped and prevented from coming into the country at the border versus they managed to squeak in and then get caught after the fact and then get deported. What difference does it make? Is America such a honeypot that they were able to like grab some golden fleece and smuggle it back to their domain with them? Because this look on his face acts like, oh, Jefferson, you're so naive. You just don't understand what kind of fucking honeypot you're living on. These people will come in here and they'll take your biscuits. They'll take them all. Like, they'll take them where? They'll take them how? What the fuck are you talking about?
Do you think that it makes a difference if that person they come across, they get tagged, law enforcement knows who they are, they get picked up, they get deported, as opposed to they just. So do you want a wall from San Diego to Texas that's just sky high?
It doesn't necessarily.
They can never physically get through.
Okay, Jefferson. Let's say I was God.
Didn't answer my question.
Okay, with
He's responding with a hypothetical instead of dealing with my question. I asked him if he wanted a wall. He didn't address it.
Let's pretend I'm an omnipotent God. That
Let's not. But this is interesting. Let's say that he's an omnipotent, omniscient being. Watch this.
could put up a wall that was 100% effective. Would you admit that that would be better in preventing someone from coming in rather than coming in, having to catch them and then deport them and then feeding them?
If he's an omniscient being, he already knows who's coming and going, so he can just catch them and remove them. There's no need for a wall.
While they're here during
You need a wall because you're not omniscient.
that whole time. Do you agree that that would be
Who's
better?
Who's feeding, Doug? Who's feeding them?
The country.
Us. Taxpayers. He means the taxpayers are feeding them.
Who?
The country, the people in the country, either private charities or local governments.
If private charities want to feed people who are impoverished, that's up to them. Is Doug saying like, okay, these people are coming across the border, they're taking advantage of charities, and they shouldn't be allowed to take advantage of charities? Are we going to police all charities to make sure that people don't take advantage of them? I don't think that Doug is for that.
So the fact that these people get the fact that they get.
Can you answer my question?
He couldn't answer my question. I asked him if he wanted a border from San Diego to Texas that went from the ground to the sky. And he said, and he didn't answer that. And now he's like, "Oh, I want," and keep it under 10 seconds because you talk too much, rooster guy. I don't want to listen to you blather. Like seriously, fuck this guy and his hair. What's left of it? Free will border crossing, can't violate that. Yeah, exactly.
No, I would. That doesn't make any sense.
Have to go. Duty calls. Good to see you, Peter. See you later. By the way, I'd like to talk with you at some point, so let me know. Hit me up on Discord at some point. I'd like to have like a phone chat. It's been a long time since I've talked with you, so I had some questions about some technical stuff that I'm doing for the show. But good to see you.
If you're an omniscient,
You can't
God,
even admit that it is better to not have them coming in the first place than catch them and then deport them. You can't.
I don't think it matters one way. I can't admit it. I don't think it matters one way or the other. If they get here, if they show up here and law enforcement nabs them and then sends them back, I think that's as good as them getting deterred at the border. He's like, what you really want to do is make sure that they never had a chance to cross over at all, which goes back to my initial question. Do you want a wall from San Diego to the Gulf of Mexico that goes from the ground to the sky? Doug, do you want that? He didn't answer that fucking question. He's just insisting that I answer his fucking questions. Fucking conservatives. I fucking hate not only conservatives, liberal conservatives. This fucking shit. This laissez-faire, pro-capitalism bullshit crap coming from these lazy motherfuckers. Like, well, the problem with immigration is that people can just show up anytime they want. Sure, they fucking can. And they do all the time in places called airports. Airports. They do it every day. They have the ability to come here on tourist visas and they show up, and sometimes they overstay their welcome. Did they come in legally? Yes. Did they stay illegally? Yes. But this motherfucker is fixated on the fact that dark-skinned people are running across the Rio Grande without his fucking permission. And he's going to vote for Ronald McDonald for president Because of that. Because he's a corrupt, decadent piece of crap.
And even admit that.
If you're an omniscient God, you already know who they are, so you can grab them and send them. Why would you need a?
If you're an omniscient God, you already know who they are, so you don't need a wall. Yes, that's what I said.
Why would you need a wall?
Thought experiment failed, Doug. Your thought experiment fucking failed.
Okay, thanks for coming on, Jeff.
You know who's here legally or illegally.
This is why people are voting right.
Because they're stupid? Agreed. If people are voting based on the kind of logic that Doug is demonstrating here, it's because they're fucking stupid. I'm not going to like fucking pussyfoot around this. If you're voting for Donald Trump, it's because you are ignorant and spiteful. And you were channeling that into a candidate that you think represents your ignorance and spitefulness. And that's what you want represented as the head of state. That's what Doug wants represented as his head of state. It's not a lack of common sense. It's all feelings. It has nothing to do with facts. If you cared about the fact, like, okay, when a president gets in, a president actually appoints the heads of different departments: Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Treasury, blah, 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 blah. Who's going to actually appoint more talented, qualified people? Joe Biden and his team, or Donald Trump and his group of ideological flunkies? Keep in mind that during his first term, he appointed the corporate head, the CEO of Carl's Jr., as the head of labor. That alone is a massive red flag for me to not vote for that dumb motherfucker, because he puts people in that are incompetent at their jobs and then says that they're the best people. And then when they are actually kind of competent and do something that he doesn't like, he fires them and is like, oh, I didn't get the right person. I didn't get the best person. Now I got the best person in there. They're acting head until they fucking act up, and he has to dismiss them and then repeats the same process. He's a loser. Doug is here shilling implicitly for a political loser who is going to, if he gets back in power, is going to appoint other political losers to be the heads of administrations that will make your lives harder. And they will cost you money. They will make things more difficult for you in exchange for your money, because they're public servants. We're paying them. Doug's stupid.
They listen to guys like you and they just go, what is wrong with this guy?
What are you?
On his channel, they're probably wondering, like, I don't understand what Jefferson's talking about. I just don't get it. In fact, one of them was, I think, Cerberus X, who was like, I don't get your point at all. Cerberus lost the point a long time ago, but that's because he's a transphobe and actively dislikes my takes.
Do you think that the immigration issue that's currently happening,
like,
That's
the
it.
resistance to these thought experiments, you can just see it.
The resistance to your thought experiments is based on the fact that your thought experiments are bad, Doug. That's why I resisted them. They're stupid. Trying to say, like, I'm an omnipotent, omniscient being and I build a wall. Why would you build walls? Are for people that don't know, not for people that do. People that do know don't need walls. And the United States intelligence community knows a lot of these people that cross over, grabs them, and sends them back. So why do we need a wall? Well, wouldn't it be better to detain them first rather than getting them after? Relative to what? Before they get up to something? Before they buy a hot dog here? No. If a person crosses over here illegally and goes to a 7-Eleven, buys a Slurpee and a pack of cigarettes, right? They've just invested money into our economy, then gets picked up by cops. It was better for the United States, on aggregate, that they crossed over and spent that money into our economy and then got detained, rather than getting prevented from spending that money in our economy, getting detained at the border. So I'll leave it there. All right, folks. I'm going to get out of here. This has been enough for me. Pine Creek's been driving me crazy. Thank you for following along. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. If you've got questions, comments, email me at jeffersonspatchcock@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads. I'm on there too. With that, I'll get out of here. Have a great day. I will be back probably sooner than either one of us thinks. Take care.